Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome. Let's give 1 minute for people to join in and get settled down, and we'll get rolling in a minute here. All right. I think we can get started. This is Noman Mustafa here. I'm your host for today. I'll be guiding you through the session alongside with our speakers. Um, a couple of housekeeping items. We will have a quick polls throughout the presentation. So please feel free to answer that. It will help us shape our sessions and make sure that all of your questions get answered. There'll be some Q&A as well. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll try to make sure that we can respond to you as best as we can. All right, there's a poll here for you guys to answer before we get started. All right, so to set the stage, I want to make sure that I set the stage for this context of this webinar. So we are going into an era where software is becoming more intelligent, and it's not just software is not just responding, but it's making decisions. It's collaborating. It's taking actions on behalf of a human or autonomously. And with that, AI is also evolving from chatbots to autonomous decision-making agents. I'm referring to agentic AI. There's a fun fact that according to a McKinsey case study, over 60% of enterprises who are experimenting with generative AI are already exploring ways to let AI agents take real actions and not just responses, right? So we are moving away from experimentation phase to making it valuable for enterprises to have agents do certain actions as well. And in terms of impact, the enterprises are already operationalizing AI agents in workflow automation and already seeing 2 to 5x benefit in process response speed and efficiency. And this one will continue to get better as enterprises becomes more mature with AI agents and they start developing applications specifically for their own business. You will start to see this impact continue to get better and better. Now, with agents, when you allow them to take actions, obviously these agents will be accessing your critical data systems and data resources, your infrastructure, your APIs, your pipelines. So what becomes extremely important is you have to have security, compliance, and control. And this is the number one reason why a lot of AI, agentic AI projects are stuck in the POC stage where they're trying to figure out how do you make sure that you use the benefit of agentic AI but making it secure and compliant from all aspects. And this is where identity and access are becoming the control plane for AI safety. um, the flow of the session today, we have divided this into different chapters, and the key chapters that we want to cover are obviously start with what is agentic AI, what is AWS Bedrock and Agent Core, and then we'll cover some of the common use cases that enterprises are leveraging agentic or multi-agentic application for, and what outcomes that they're seeing. That's basically is our number one chapter. Second chapter, we are going to focus on what are some of the security risks that our customers should be aware of, and what are customers asking us to address as they start moving these agentic AI applications or use cases from POC stage to production stage. Third chapter is about Britive, on how Britive handles these agentic AI security from an identity perspective. There's a demo that we have put together that shows a multi-agentic travel application built on Bedrock, and how are we securing the access of these agents to different components in the backend, which might include your PIA data, it might be your source code, and all these critical aspects of agents having access to those critical resources. And then we will end with some best practices and customer advice. This is the first episode, so obviously we want to keep it, a little bit balanced, that we cover the basics as well for our audience who are maybe new to agentic AI or MCP, or how multi-agentic applications are built. We will have a second episode after this where we'll cover a little bit more detail in depth about A2A and MCP specific security as well. All right, with that, I want to introduce our star-studded speakers for today. And we have Jean Malha, who is a AI and ML specialist focusing specifically on AWS Bedrock and Agent Core, working with customers day in, day out to help them test and experiment and adopt in production multi-agentic applications. And we also have Shazad Ali, who is a principal cybersecurity architect, again, working with customers on ensuring that whatever we are building in terms of multi-agentic app is secured from an identity perspective. So with that, Jean and Shazad, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself and what excites you about this multi-agentic transformation that we are in?
Sure. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for having me here. So I'm Jean Mana. I'm, as just described, I'm a specialist solutions architect covering our generative AI solutions here at AWS. So I've been working with AI solutions for somewhere around 20 years right now, and in the field of AI, robotics, and security. So that makes the topic for today very close to my heart.
Thanks, Jean. Glad you're here. Shazad?
Okay, thank you guys. Good to see you all. Yeah, so I'm Shazad Ali. I'm the lead cybersecurity architect here at Britive, and I spent a number of years in Cisco as a network and network security architect. And then I was part of VMware NSX. And then recently I worked in a multi-cloud networking company called Aviatix. So what excites me basically is the fact that customers are adopting these new technologies, cutting edge technologies, and I'm helping them cross that bridge because it's not easy. I understand that. I have seen customer pain points. I have worked with customers who are actually into the shoes of deploying the agentic AI, multi-agentic AI applications. And this is exciting time. So yeah, so please continue this discussion, continue this journey, and we are here to help you together.
Thank you, Shazad. Thank you, Jean, for the great introduction. So before I jump into the core discussion, I just want to quickly give you an overview of Britive as well. Britive is a unified identity security platform that provides zero trust security for humans, non-humans, and agentic AI from one platform, right? So in this architecture diagram, you can see that on left-hand side, you have all those identities that today enterprises may have, users, obviously non-humans, and now agentic AI, or it could be workloads. But on the right-hand side of this slide is your critical resources that these agents, today's focus is about agentic AI, so I'm going to focus on that. But they are trying to access as they are doing their LLM reasoning, as they are trying to access and do certain tasks. They're accessing these data systems, and they're in AWS as well as in other clouds, in your SaaS, your Kubernetes, your even on-prem, right? So how do we make sure that these agents do not have 24/7 God mode access to everything on the right-hand side? So Brightif platform is that unified, way to provide short-lived, granular access, fine-grained access to the sources on the right-hand side, and take that access away when the agent is done accessing that information. So it's ephemeral access. It's a common policy model that works not only in AWS, but across your SaaS and hybrid environments and across any other cloud as well. And then it provides you this unified audit trail, which is so important for compliance and auditability perspective. And obviously, as we cover it, we'll cover some of the advanced capability in terms of IAM conditions and MCP security, and how certain conditions can be tied so that agents would have the right access to the right resources in a more intelligent and adaptable way. So with that, Jean, I will turn the attention to you. And since this is our first um, uh, session, maybe walk the audience through what is AWS Bedrock, what is even agentic AI, right? What is now Agent Core? There's a lot of talk about Agent Core. so that bring that concept in a simple way for our audience, and then maybe a couple of case studies that brings all that concept together in terms of how enterprises are adopting multi-agentic applications or agentic applications and seeing that business benefit.
All
Take it
right.
away.
Thanks so much. So before I get into agentic things, I wanted to make sure that we do a good introduction of what AWS is bringing to the table when it comes to generative AI. I'm not going to present everything, but I wanted to do a short focus on Amazon Bedrock. So a few years ago, we released this service, Amazon Bedrock, that is meant to be the most flexible and comprehensive way for you to build and scale generative AI applications. And that also includes agents, but we'll discuss that in details. So if we look a bit into the last 2 years, 2 years ago, everyone was doing proof of concept around generative AI, basically figuring out what large language models could bring to the table and demonstrating value at a small scale within a company with the data that you have. Last year was all about bringing these proof of concepts to production and making sure that you can do, well, LLM ops and making sure that you can do all of that in a good way. On the AWS side, we strongly feel that security itself is a shared responsibility model. So you have some responsibility into it, and we have responsibility into it. I'll go into what we can provide, but I love that we have partners like Britive that can help you take away some of the undifferentiated heavy lifting that we still leave to our customers and make it even easier for you guys to stay within your security posture. And
Jeep,
this,
just a quick,
yeah, go ahead.
are you sharing your
I,
slides?
I
Yeah,
think I
Numan,
am.
I can see it.
Oh, you can see it? Okay, go ahead then.
Mhm.
Cool. Thanks for the check. And so last year, all about going to production. This year has been about demonstrated business value. So where do we focus the deployment of foundation models so that we can make the best out of the capabilities that the foundation models provide? And to do that, we need to make sure that we have the right capabilities. So I'm going to take just a couple of metrics from Gartner and looking at what they had provided as a forward-looking metric in 2024. They say that in 2028, they expect 33% of enterprise software apps to include at least a form of agentic AI by 2028. I believe that this metric has been completely overshot. Right now, most of the enterprise solutions will have at least some form of an agentic approach to them. And remember, that was less than 1% in 2024. That means right now, scaling AI and scaling agentic AI seems to be the largest problem and the largest opportunity that we have. They also believe that by the end of 2028, about 15% of our day-to-day work decisions will be made autonomously using agentic AI. And to do that, we need to have a good way of creating AI agents that can make decisions. So going back to what we did on Bedrock, Bedrock was really created as a solution that allows you to choose the best model. So we'll look into all of the model providers that we have to do optimization for cost, latency, and accuracy, and then to make sure that you can do that with a good security posture over your data and apply the right responsible AI checks everywhere. I'm going to go into deploy and operate agents because we actually changed a lot our posture on that. But that was really the basics. And if you look at Bedrock right now, it's been fantastically successful in getting the best model providers out there to provide their models into Amazon Bedrock as a serverless offering. So if you're looking to use the Anthropic models, the models that we provide on the Amazon side, or open source models like the Qwen family of models or the DeepSeek family of models, we have that as a super simple offering that you can just send requests to without having to learn how to deploy foundation models and operate them. And that's the core benefit of Amazon Bedrock. But that's not nearly good enough for you to accelerate your generative AI application development. So we've added more things. The possibility to create retrieval augmented generation pipelines, we call that knowledge bases, the possibility to fine-tune your models to your specific use case, or even to do continuous pre-training on specific models so that you can really adapt the model that you're using to the task that you need to do. And that works really well when we're doing single turns to foundation models. And we've deployed that all across the globe, really. So you can see there that we have regions everywhere. You can maintain your data localization in a super simple way using just Amazon Bedrock. We've also made sure that we built Amazon Bedrock with all of what you expect in terms of security and compliance from AWS. So none of your inference requests or responses make their way back to the foundation model providers, so you can keep complete ownership and complete security that your data is not used for retraining models. We make sure that there's encryption everywhere. We give you the ability to monitor your APIs to CloudTrail. We can also allow you to do invocation logs that you completely maintain. And we demonstrate compliance to SOC 2 and HIPAA and everything that makes sense for our enterprise customers. And that's where I want to go back to the shared responsibility model. That means Bedrock in itself is a great platform for you guys to operate in a secure way, but that still means you need to do things to make sure that your application still reply to your requirements in terms of security. And that's where solutions like Britive are going to be super interesting to accelerate and demonstrate the right compliance on your way. Now, if we stop there, we're just doing model inference, which is already great, but that's not enough from what we see our customers do now. Most of our customers now want to make sure that the tasks require less human oversight. So we're moving from something where we did a signal turn, we asked a question to a model, potentially we included some context that came from your documentation using a RAG solution, but really we did single turns to models. We see more and more of our customers move into the agentic AI space. So we're going to do a small definition there. We consider something to be an AI agent if it's a system that perceives its environment, makes decisions, and acts autonomously to achieve its goals. And it does that using tools. I know it's kind of broad, but I really wanted to make sure that we have a common definition because there are many definitions out there. Now, when it comes to agents on the AWS side, our vision is we want to provide the best place to build the world's most successful AI agents, empowering organizations to deploy reliable and secure agents at scale. We've said secure way too many times, but it is tremendously important that when you're sending data to foundation models, when you're building out a generative AI application, you have a good way to still maintain your security posture, maintain your security requirements, and that is something that together with AWS and Britive, we can help you do in a very good way. Moving into agentic AI use case. So we're working with customers every day, and we see that each and every one of the verticals that we work with has agentic AI use cases. It can be in the automotive space where we have supply chain management, we have contract management. I have customers who have been using agentic AI as a way to extract data from unstructured document and put that into their downstream systems in a way that is way more reliable than what we could do before with traditional AI. Same thing comes in the financial services. We see a lot of our customers work on insurance underwriting or on financial forecasting to some level. If you guys have been following up on research, we have just released an article this morning on a new foundation model that does prediction for time series. It's becoming increasingly important that you understand the agentic AI space because we have more and more applications coming in. Same thing comes from games. We see more and more of the games that have additional AI. In-game AI is kind of a given, you understand that, but production of your games, coding assistant, all of that can be vastly improved by using agentic solutions. And we tend to all of these use cases. To make sure that we tend to those in a good way, we found that there was kind of a gap in between what we offered within Bedrock, so the foundation models and extensions to doing retrieval augmented generation, guardrails, things like that, and actually hosting the agents, because we need to be able to do multiple turns to models. We need to be able to do all of that in a good way. And we found that the time to market for building out agents on most of our customer side was long. It's super easy right now to say, hey, I'm going to spin up an agent in LangChain, LangGraph, Crew AI, whichever framework you like, but it's hard to operate it easily at scale and in an environment that you can trust. And that's exactly why we introduced Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. So we've built Agent Core with the same fundamentals we build everywhere. We leverage the state of the art in science. We provide the best infrastructure that you can get on cloud, and we've been delivering specialized agent for a long time. So what we've built is a continuum of solution that allow you as a builder or as a business user to build out AI applications. I'm going to push you to just show you the agent core positioning within our services. But first, I want to make sure that everyone understands that our objective there was to solve for that prototype to production chasm. We see it's easy to do proof of concept, and it's hard to operate at scale. So we really wanted to close the gap there. Make sure that you don't have to design a solution that performs at scale, that can stay secure, and that allows you to have a good level of governance. And that also includes working with some of our partner solutions. So Agent Core, if we put it in the frame of all of our services, it really stands on top of our infrastructure. So if at any point in time, you need to have specialized infrastructure to host your own models, to do MLOps, to do model training, fine-tuning, governance, we have all of that within SageMaker AI and within our compute solutions. Now we've added within Bedrock the capability to call models, whether Amazon Nova first-party models or third-party models from leading providers, and also additional capabilities that allow you to do optimization, guardrails, customization. And Agent Core is going to give you all of the bricks, all of the primitives that allow you to build agents in a simple way. I'll go through all of those in details, but it gives you an idea. And I still want to call out that we also have fantastic solutions that are custom built for specific use cases. If your use case is to do code development, don't reinvent an agent. There are solutions like Kiro, like Amazon Q Developer, that allow to do that out of the box, and you don't need to build them. Okay, so starting with Agent Core. Agent Core is really a set of capabilities that let you deploy, operate your agents in a good way. So for deployment, we'll have two primitives. I'll spend a bit of time on identity, but runtime is really managed compute that allows you to run a serverless agent in a super simple way. Identity will allow you to do inbound identity, who's allowed to call your agents, and outbound identity, what your agent is allowed to do to some extent. Then we have the enhancement, the tools. So we have something called Gateway. I'll go into details, memory, browser, code interpreter. All of that allows you to build agents easily. And then we've tied all of that together with an observability brick that allows you to see what's actually happening within your agents. So if I go into runtime, runtime is a serverless solution that allows you to run agents for up to 8 hours and to deploy them in a super simple way. We support infrastructure as code. All of that is obviously API first. What's interesting to call out is we support any modality, and you will only get charged for your vCPUs if they are not waiting on IOPS. I want that to sink in for a second, because that means if you're calling a foundation model and you haven't received the answer from Agent Core runtime, at that time, you're not paying for your vCPU. So it's a fantastic optimization on cost as well. Agent core runtime is easy to configure because you can deploy your agent definition using a Docker file. We support any model provider. So it can be us, it can be OpenAI, it can be whichever model provider you want on the back end. We support any agentic framework. We don't force you to use ours. We provide one that's open source and free called Strand, but we don't force you to use it at all. And then once it's deployed, you can basically call your models in 3 different ways, A2A, MCP, or our own API for invoking, which is pretty straightforward. Now, identity, I'll spend a bit of time on that. We found that agentic AI and identity create a new set of problems because you need to understand who's allowed to call your agents, and then you need to understand what your agent is allowed to do on behalf of the user on the resources it can use. And that is still a big problem to solve. It requires you to have a way to define policies, and it requires you to have a way to define the right policy enforcement point. So on the agent core side, we're going to take care of the inbound, who's allowed to call your agents, and we're going to take care to some extent to the outbound. So making sure that when we do outbound calls, if that's using identity and access management on AWS, super easy. We have a principal there, and we can set up policies. If that's not using identity and access management, we're going to make sure that you can use OAuth there, but there is still something to solve to make sure that your agents overall do the things that you want to allow from your users. And that's where it's fantastically important to make sure that you have the right solutions to help you do that, which can be Britive. Gateway is simply a way for you guys to MCPify any API or custom logic that you have. So you can think of it as a way to define targets, and these targets could be REST APIs, Lambda functions, and or MCP servers. Actually, I haven't put that in this one, but we support MCP servers as well. And you can authenticate to your gateway using either identity and access management or your OAuth provider. It makes it very easy to have a clean break between your tool definitions and your agent definitions. So very easy for you to set up, and you will pay per request. So you can have as many agent core gateways as you want, and you can scope them down to what you want your agents to do. And that makes it super easy. Agent core memory, kind of self-explanatory there, but I still want to make sure you have a good understanding. We have 2 types of memory. We have the short-term memory. How do we store the messages that have been exchanged between your agent and the models? And we have long-term memory for things like semantic search, user preferences. All of that can be completely managed by Agent Core. So you only have to make sure that the framework that you're using does the call to Agent Core memory, which, by the way, we have native integrations into LangGraph, Crew AI, Strands, obviously. And here, short-term memory, your chat messages in your session state, and long-term memory, which can be semantic user preferences and summary. We have 2 additional tools that I think are interesting to call out. We have Agent Core Browser. So if you have at any point in time your agents that need to interact with websites that are not meant for agents, but really meant for users, we have automated the deployment of a headless browser that can be used for browsing to anything. Sorry about that. All right. And we have a code interpreter. Code interpreter is interesting when we're talking about security because it allows you to create a super simple sandbox for executing code within the boundaries of your agent. So if you're generating code with foundation models, you really don't want that code to be executed with the same permissions as your agent because it has access to your tools and everything else. So you want to make sure that you put that into a nice sandbox that has all of the security built in and the capability to provide you with the responses. And that's exactly what we've built with Code Interpreter. Last brick, Agent Core observability. We haven't reinvented the wheel there. Agent Core emits traces that are OTel compliant. We just made sure that we have a collector and a set of dashboards that are out of the box, giving you the right observability into your tools. But if you want to use a third-party solution, we absolutely allow you to send your metrics and traces and logs into a third-party solution and use that because we're using the open telemetry ontology for everything. And that is everything that I wanted to present in terms of the capabilities that we provide. So Agent Core is an additional service on top of Amazon Bedrock or any model provider, by the way, that allows you to create agents without having to care about the underlying infrastructure. And it integrates really well with solutions like Britive that will help you maintain your security posture overall.
Thanks, Gene. Really, really in-depth and fantastic overview of AWS Bedrock and specifically Agent Core. I think AWS has built something very useful here. I've been involved with Shazad on building a couple of multi-agentic applications recently, B2B applications, and developers just found this very easy in terms of they don't have to worry about plumbing. It's like an almost ready to go office with furnished furniture and power, cooling, everything is ready to go. Just go and build the apps, right? So it makes life very much easier. And I love the focus on security, right? Because at the end of the day, this is what we are finding is the number one roadblock for several multi-agentic apps to go in production. And with that, it's a great pivot to move to Shazad Ali. Shazad, maybe one of the things you can cover as part of your presentation is as you are
Mhm.
talking to these enterprises, obviously everybody is eager to move this from a science project or a POC into production. But I think customers may be at a different maturity level. But what are they asking in terms of what they want to see in terms of security when it comes to agentic AI? So maybe just walk us through that and maybe just showcase that as part of a demo of a multi-agentic app on how this comes into picture when we want to
Absolutely,
secure that.
Numan. Yeah. So I hope you guys can see my screen okay.
Yes,
All
perfect.
right. So yeah, so this is basically, like I said, I've been talking to a lot of customers and then hearing their pain points from the agentic AI and also non-agentic AI perspective. Because when you look at the enterprise landscape, they have their human users, then they have their NHIs, non-human identities, and then they have these agent identities or AI agent identities. So from the agentic AI or AI agent identity point of view, the first thing that we noticed, when I started discussing with a lot of enterprise customers and also, some small customers about the agent onboarding, right? How do I verify the identity of the agent? How do I make sure that agent, when they are talking to my critical resources, they have only the necessary access that they're allowed to, right? And then we also noticed, developers and then employees, they started deploying these MCP servers within the enterprise, which is great because it actually gives you this power and intelligence to go and, increase your productivity. But at the same time, it actually poses a unique challenge of these, who is deploying it? How can I control it, right? So the access privilege area is another area which is, very um, concerning for a lot of CISOs because they want to make sure that when these agentic AI workflows are getting access to, let's say, S3 bucket or Salesforce data or Snowflake data, they have only short-lived access. Because I'm pretty sure you have seen the report or news where a company agentic AI solution deleted the entire database. Why? Because the agent had very broad access or over permissive access to the critical resources within their enterprise. So these are, some of the challenges we see. Then the challenge of, deploying the agents or this holistic solution beyond AWS. Obviously, like, Gene mentioned, AWS is providing a lot of, the plumbing and under the hood technology. But, the reality is that in the enterprise, you might be talking to another cloud like Azure or GCP. Then you have your SaaS applications, Snowflake, like I said, SAP. They all are providing their own agentic AI solution. So how do you make sure then when these agents are talking to each other, they have the proper guardrail in place, right? And then within the enterprise or within the AWS ecosystem, they also need to make sure that when you have this architecture, the security is in place. So it all boils down to the pain of the business and looking at it from the compliance angle, from the audit angle, because some of the industries are highly regulated. So it's important that you provide all the visibility, right? So what we came out with after discussing with all these customers is a solution that allows these enterprises to consume an enterprise-ready unified platform. Like what AWS did from the infrastructure perspective, we are doing it from the identity perspective, where whether you have human identities, non-human, or AI agents, they have a proper registry and lifecycle management system. They're federated into the system, so you are providing the verifiable identity for them. There is a centralized place for the MCP gateway, so we have our own MCP gateway where your servers can actually, or MCP servers can funnel the requests through the Britive MCP gateway, and that's actually provide the security for the MCP traffic itself. So you can, say that, from the zero trust perspective, I don't trust any other MCP, but if the traffic is coming from this Britive MCP, then I would trust it, right? So we have the solution for that. Then, the just-in-time access, zero standing privilege is our bread and butter. So we extended this technology to the AI agents as well. While these AI agents are talking to these resources, we provide short-lived access. The operations are, unified and simplified. And at the end, like I said, we are providing this simplified and streamlined compliance and peace of mind to the enterprises so they can consume it and then provide the productivity and innovation that they are looking after. So customer outcomes are very obvious. We have the human in loop angle to it also, because some resources would need a human to approve, and that is required. I know some customers, they have to create this fine balance because AI obviously gives us a lot of flexibility and power. But at the same time, there are places where we need to have the human in the loop to make sure that when these AI agents are getting access, this access is actually granted based on someone approving it, whether it's through Jira, through ServiceNow, through PagerDuty, a lot of solutions that we can integrate with. So now with all that, let me take you into the real world example of employee travel booking use case. So we know enterprises and also SMBs, they have the internal travel booking system. So the employees, there are different type of employees. Some of them are from let's say human resource. Some are from the C-suite. Some are from the engineering. They all go to this travel portal and they book their flight. Now, what this company did, they actually enhanced the experience for their internal employee by using the technologies provided by AWS and Britive. So when an employee logs into this portal to book a hotel or a flight, the request actually comes into the AWS Bedrock agents running behind the scene, right? And then we picked up this architecture where we have the supervisor agent receiving all the requests from this GenAI LLM-based portal. And then supervisor agent is responsible for handing off the responsibility to the flight agent or hotel agent based on the human language prompt that you would type here, right? And these agents that you see here, they have the granular access to the resources such as AWS DynamoDB table or to the MADS real-time travel API calls, right? And this is all going through the Britive platform. So before they get access to these resources you see down here on the right-hand side, they have to be properly authorized or get access, granular access to these resources. And what we call here is the profile checkout, right? So this is basically when a supervisor agent says, you know what, I need to find the user preference for this economy class user or normal employee who logged in. I need to first check out the profile, meaning I need to get the temporary access to this DynamoDB table, get the preference, provide this preference to flight agent and hotel agent, and these agents will go ahead and then will book the flight based on the just-in-time access to these travel APIs. And when their job is done, they will save this information for the future, use. It could be, maybe someone changed the preference during the booking period or during the prompt period, then they can actually push this information back to the DynamoDB. And this is all happening in just-in-time fashion. So with that, let me take you into
Another question. So I assume that this solution is providing the on behalf of security. So based on it's Shazad Ali or Gene, depending on their profile, Britive will be able to provide the necessary access to the backend databases, right? Depending on the profile.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
One thing I would also highlight here is that when the data is traveling between these services and to the agents or to this employee, this is directly in between, right? So Britive is not in the data path. Britive is not a proxy. So what Britive does basically elevate the permission for this agent just in time, provide this data, and then after that, the permission is revoked. And this is all happening through the Britive profile concept.
And I think you brought up an important point that this is like a runtime authorization where you're not relying on static service accounts with vaults and passwords, which can easily be breached and becoming a key reason for adversaries to steal data.
That's right.
Okay, would be good
All
to
right.
showcase as part of your demo, Shazad.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the portal, my travel booking portal. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to type a query saying book a flight for me from San Francisco to LHR, which is London Heathrow. It's a one-way trip and departing November 20th, 2025. And let's add a hotel also, right? So that we can see the multiple agents in action. So also book a hotel for a night near LHR, right? So when I type this, you can see this is, okay, let me log in. So let me go through the process of logging in. This is my single sign-on, and I'm logging in as an economy class user. So again, you can see economy class user here. And I will do the same thing again, book a flight from SFO to LHR. And you can see, because I can make mistakes. And whenever I deliver this demo, it's always a different experience because these LLMs, they have their own mind. They're thinking and they're doing reasoning. So you will see different experience every time you conduct this demo. Probably November 20th, 2025. Also one night hotel near LHR. Okay, so now I entered the prompt. And what you saw in the architecture is happening in the background, right? So now the agent is doing its reasoning and rational, and it's actually sending this request to supervisor agent. Supervisor agent will say, okay, I need to first get the preference, this user preference, their seat preference, their loyalty, information. There may be credit card information, although this is the internal employee, so the bill will be done automatically, so there is no credit card involved here. But if it is a B2C scenario, then there are other hoops that you have to go through to basically book the flight, right? So now it's all happening in the background. And while it's doing that, let me show you the profile concept, right? So this is the Britive user interface. Let's say if I'm a human, I log into the Britive user interface and I see all these profiles. So behind these profiles, I have the security policy. And I also have the granular permissions that I would get when I check out this profile. So when I click on this profile checkout button, you can see I got the just-in-time access. And if I click here, it will directly land me into the AWS UI. And you will notice that when I land here, I'm directly landing into the Bedrock. And you can see I'm landing in as my user and with the permission I have, right? So it's not a service account or some proxy that is doing this. And if I go to my agent core, for example, you can see I have all the elements of agent core that Gene explained, the agent runtime, built-in tool, and whatnot. And you can see my agents deployed here as well. Interesting thing is if I click on something else, or if I try to get access to, let's say, EC2, I won't, because I got the granular access. I assume the role of a Bedrock agent or user, and I don't have access to anything else, right? And the reason it's important to understand why, because this is exactly the same concept the agents or non-human identities would use, right? So if I check in this profile, then I would not have access to AWS S3. And if I take you into the background, this is my tenant application, AWS. And we provide you all the visibility from the AWS point of view, all the data, all the permissions that we scanned. And we use these granular permissions to create the Britive profile, right? So you will see the profiles here. So I'll pick one, for example, business class booking profile. And you can see I have the timeout expiration here. I can specify that. You can also see the permissions that I would get when I or an AI agent would check out this profile. And you can also see the policy details here directly from the Britive user interface. And in the policy section is where you will see the policy and the constraints, right? So what I'm saying here is that, these AI agents are allowed to get access to this profile, can check out this profile and get access to this DynamoDB table. And I can also add other conditions like the network-based conditions, location-based condition, date and time conditions. I can inject, one more step-up verification option for human in the loop use case, or maybe if I need to get approval from a human, from a manager, I can also inject that. And not only that, I can also connect it or inject or have these ITSM systems in the loop so that when you are checking out a request or agent is checking out the request, they will go through all these checks and balances and the guardrails to make sure they get access to what they're allowed to get access to. Okay.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Numan, any question?
No, I think this is an important concept you're explaining, Shazad, because I think the key part is the guardrails, right? That even though agents have access, they don't have over permissive access. So you can't basically expect agent to go and do destructive actions like deploying or deleting or destroying a production database because you just do not have access, over permissive access. And then you can put human in the loop. So if you have any destructive actions, you can always have human in the loop to make sure whether this is a intended action you want to take or not. It's a good point.
Right. And if I just quickly take you back to my user interface, you can see this, application is showing me some flight options and hotel options. I'm going to go ahead and book this. But what's going to happen in the background, again, you will see in the complete audit trail of, what we did so far, right? So you can see the supervisor agent was checking out the profile. And then from the visibility perspective, you can see their target, you can see their session ID. They have access to this DynamoDB table. Then the supervisor agent was handing it off to the flight agent and then the hotel agent. So you see all this visibility here. We also provide you visibility from the reporting perspective. You can see some AI-related reports that we have in the system, like if AI identities are getting access to a profile. If you want to go look at this, you will have this. Then from the business intelligence perspective, we give you a lot of insights into your, human, non-human, and agentic AI trying to get access, and then their, historical information, the discovery of those identities and their, access availability. And then we have the platform insights into, what these identities are, how they were onboarded, what's the, your users look like, and some really interesting information that you would need to make sure that your businesses are getting the business value by deploying this application, and it's not just a science project.
Fantastic. Thanks, Shazad. This is really, really helpful. It just brings the whole concept together in terms of building the agentic AI through the power of Bedrock and Agent Core, but then securing that agents can only do things that they're supposed to and not more or less. With that, if somebody wants to deploy, Britive with Agent Core or Bedrock, how difficult that is? Is it something that requires, plethora of, agents everywhere, or proxies everywhere, or what is the process for people to get up and running with this? So that maybe if you can cover that.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. And Numan, like I said, we have helped a number of customers to onboard their agents, their identities into the system, and obviously with the help of partners like AWS. And it's not very difficult, to be honest, because we have identified some important steps and the processes. For example, onboarding the agent is the first task that you would do, and then you identify it. And then you would start creating the Britive policies and security profiles, right? Like I showed you before, because this is where you are saying that this identity has granular access to system X, system Y, system Z, right? And then you start creating some rules around it, right? So you find your policies and you say, you know what, these identities or these systems would need further guardrails or constraints before they get access, like human in the loop or maybe an approval process. And then once you have that, then you have a runtime execution and monitoring in place where we will also help you. AWS is also there to help you to make sure when you're running the prompt, your users are getting the training, the prompts are working as expected. You have the agents and the agentic AI workflows completely in sync with your rest of the business logic. So we will help you along those lines.
Got it. So it's basically, the tenant gets created as SaaS platform within hours, right? So Britive will set up a tenant for you, and it's just a matter of then onboarding the agents and building the profiles so that agents
Yeah.
can leverage it as part of the policy workflow.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
Basically, we take the same approach that AWS takes, which is like providing you all the necessary infrastructure
Mhm.
from the SaaS perspective, and then it's about consuming it and fine-tuning it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So thank you, Shazad. Really, really great demo and bringing the concept together. On the third chapter, I would ask, or the fourth chapter, I would say that I would ask Gene that while customers or enterprise are deploying these agentic apps, what are some of the best practices or lessons they're learning in terms of what really works and what they should avoid?
Awesome. A great question first. Overall, the basics are always going to be the same. You need to focus on your functionals. If you're not solving a problem that you actually have, you're not going to be successful. So we found that making sure that you have a good holistic understanding of what you're trying to do is always going to be the foundation. Then everything comes around being able to evaluate. So having a good understanding of your ground truth, what you want your agents to be able to do, and how they should be able to do that, and when you can say that they're doing it well, is also a great difference between the companies that succeed and the companies that unfortunately fail on deploying an agentic solution. And then we go back to the shared responsibility model. Trying to tackle the definition of how to deploy an agent, how to operate it with the right security, setting up the policies and all of that is tough work. If you rely on someone who has done that over and over again for a long time, you're going to get faster to your business results.
Perfect. That's great advice, Gene. Shazad, do you have anything from your side that you want to chime in?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question because I always go back to the architecture and the unification of your processes and also your infrastructure. And this is where I think this architecture approach, a unified approach, is very important. As you can see, this is the architecture that we propose to our customers and partners, and it covers all different type of identities: agents, AI agents, non-human, human. And you can see Britive is actually providing a lot of infrastructure and also the identity services to solve this huge, the mandate that you would have from your business perspective, right? So I would say, architecture approach is very important. One architecture, I have seen some vendors, they would provide you 3 different architectures to cover these different identities. That's not fair, in my opinion, to your audience. The runtime authorization with fine-grained policies are extremely important. The MCPs are going to stay here. They provide or play a very important role into the architecture. So make sure you have the MCP gateway. The MCP gateways, they have the underlying MCP servers. So all the requests that you see from the authorization perspective will come from these AI agents. There is a Britive agent identity registry there. Then you have the policies and profiles I just showed you. We have our own observability where we are providing the logs and reports and whatnot with the dashboard and the analytics that you can get. And then it's all about making sure you, again, like Dean said, you have someone besides you, like AWS and Britive, to make sure it's all successful and follows this unified architecture approach.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Shazad. I think with this, we are coming close to our presentation for today. We're going to have another episode, but there's one question left from Roy for Shazad is the IP filtering for Agent Core. Can you include all of the AWS IP list for additional lockdown?
Yes, you have, and you can. You have this option, and you can actually provide this IP-based filtering, because I came from the networking background, so and I know we can leverage technologies from AWS and also have Britive providing this IP-based filtering, where let's say if your users are coming from VPN or from a specific location, we can have this information the IP address information into the Britive platform so that we can lock down access to these profiles. And you can actually extend the same logic to the AI agents as well. So if the AI agent, let's say, is sitting in Asia and you don't want them to access your resources in US West Coast, you have this option in the Britive user interface or through the API or through the Terraform, where you can control this logic so that they don't have access to the resources in a different region. Yeah.
Absolutely. Go ahead, G.
Maybe one thing to call out there, we just released a couple of weeks back the ability for your agents to run within the boundaries of your VPC, so you have more control. The policies can be set up on the Britive side, but you also have the possibility to restrict at the network layer, no problem.
Absolutely. And also helps with the GDPR type requirements, right? You have to follow the law of the land, so you can also do that. So with that, Jean and Shazad, thank you for both for joining. It's been very educational for us. We probably will do another advanced one where we talk about MCP and A2A as well, in terms of maturing your agentic AI security use cases. For the audience, thank you for joining. We have a couple of QR codes here. If you want to learn more about Amazon Bedrock and Agent Core, you can use this QR code to get more information. Similarly, if you want to see a demo or want to talk more or learn more about agentic AI security or in general human and non-human, feel free to use this QR code. We also have an email info@britive.com. If you want to connect to our experts, we would love to give you a demo or talk about your architecture as well. Thank you, folks, for joining, and thanks for the audience as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.